welcome back to Nails Before Films. As the title suggests, I'm reviewing The Fall Guy today. To be honest, I only watched this because it was the biggest movie coming out. I wasn't hyped at all. I was more excited to see Boy Kills World than The Fall Guy, and the latter was so heavily marketed. After actually watching the movie, it's about what I expected, worse in some areas and mildly better in others. I can totally understand why it sort of flopped. While it's a nice, fun film, I'm not dying to recommend it to people either. I'll explain why in this video and try to avoid spoilers along the way. As always, let's go over what I didn't like about the film first. I really don't like the whole murder mystery. It's really out of place in a movie that's also a romantic action comedy. One second, the main character, Colt, would be investigating the disappearance of the lead actor, but in the next, it would suddenly switch to him trying to rekindle his relationship with the director. The two just don't mix well, and the whole conspiracy surrounding the lead actor is not that interesting. This may sound conflicting, but the murder mystery is both too complicated and not complicated enough. By too complicated, I mean that for a romantic action comedy, it doesn't need a big twist. There's a twist that reveals the real bad guys, and I don't think that's necessary for a film like The Fall Guy. I would prefer they keep the plot straightforward with simple villains. And by not enough, I mean that the twist is really foreseeable. It's easy to guess who are the bad guys, and their plan is kind of dumb if you think about it. They were going to use deep fake to falsify evidence, which is stupid in my opinion. You do realize that there's software out there that can detect deep fake, right? And trying to pin the murder on Cole is weird because he has no motive whatsoever. I feel like it's easy to figure out that Cole is not the killer. This is why I really don't like the murder mystery and conspiracy. It's too complicated for a supposedly simple film like The Fall Guy, but at the same time not interesting enough for the audience to care about the mystery solving. Speaking of the bad guys in this movie, I don't like them at all. For a film that shows you how movies are made, I expected it to be more grounded in reality and show the actors and staff as regular human beings. However, the villains are really cartoonish. Most of the other characters like Colt and the director Jody are believable. They really fit the image of a real-life stuntman and director. But the villains are so over the top that they seem like movie characters. I know they are movie characters, but you know what I mean. They're so cartoonish that I don't find them believable. The villains are another reason why the twist doesn't work. The mastermind behind the whole plan is supposed to be cunning, but the plan is so dumb if you actually think about it. The way they defeat the bad guys is stupid too. First of all, they don't even try to recover the evidence. Instead, they come up with a plan that might not even work. Well, it's cool that they incorporated a big stunt and got the whole stunt team involved. The plan as a whole is still extremely unreliable. There were many easier and more dependable plans they could come up with, yet they went with the needlessly complicated one. You might say, who cares if the plot isn't well thought out? It's a stupid action movie. Normally, I would agree. My problem is that they made it complicated themselves, but couldn't follow up with a believable plot. I'll be totally fine if the plot is straightforward without any big reveal, but they chose to do a half-baked murder mystery conspiracy with weak villains. The audience really isn't looking for that. We expected The Fall Guy to be an action comedy with romance and a simple plot. The next thing I want to complain about is the humor. I don't find the movie funny. Most of the jokes didn't work for me. The jokes that managed to get a chuckle out of me were not the dialogue or banters, but behavioral ones or the ones incorporated into the stunts. Some people think this director can't do comedy, but I disagree. I personally found Bullet Train to be pretty hilarious, and he's good at adding comedy to the fights. But when it comes to funny dialogue or banter, which is the majority of the comedy, the jokes are pretty weak. For example, a great source of comedy in this movie is how awkward Colt is in front of Jody, his crush, but he's so overly awkward that instead of endearing and funny, he becomes a bit annoying and soft. On top of that, he's too easily manipulated. He'd do anything if you tell him, do it for Jody, think of Jody's movie. He's so easily manipulated to the point that I question his self-agency. Look, I like Ryan Gosling, who doesn't? And his acting is on point as always, but the character is just too close to being a simp. While not on the level of e-girl simps, he's really close. The only reason why I don't consider Cole to be a simp is because at least the feeling is mutual between him and Jodie. As someone who doesn't like rom-coms, I quite enjoyed the romance in this movie, at least much more than the weak murder mystery. The relationship between Colt and Jodie feels natural, and you can see them slowly rekindle their relationship throughout the film. They don't just suddenly get back together. From the trailers, I thought Colt just had a crush on the director, but they've actually known each other for a while. Back when Jodie was still a camera operator, she is reasonably angry at him, but it's obvious that she still cares about him, so it's satisfying to see them finally get back together. However, I would say they overdid some scenes. For example, Jodie interrogated Cole as to why he disappeared while filming the movie. She kept pushing him by using the script in front of the whole staff. When I saw that, I was like, come on, do you have to do this in front of everyone? It's really awkward for anyone who doesn't know your relationship. Also, I can't help but feel like she purposefully made Cole do the burning stunt multiple times to punish him, which is really unprofessional, not to mention a waste of money and everyone's time. As an inspiring director, I thought she would be more professional. Besides the unprofessionalism I just mentioned, Jodie is a fine character overall. Emily Blunt does a good job of portraying her as an up-and-coming director who's under a lot of pressure. The only other thing I don't like about her is how they make her fight in a scene. It's kind of weird for a director to be able to fight as well as a stuntman. That whole scene is also quite unnecessary. The person she's fighting is wearing an alien costume, but it's really obvious that it's Colt. The fight is way too long and pointless. I don't understand why we need to know that Jodie can fight too. Now, let's get into the main selling point of The Fall Guy, which is, of course, the stunts. This movie is advertised as a love letter for stuntmen out there, and it did make me respect stunt teams more. You get a glimpse into how the stunts are made, how hard and dangerous the job is, and how it takes a whole team for stunts to work. Most audiences would leave the theater with a newfound appreciation for stunt teams. And while I'm definitely one of them, I expected them to show more. I was expecting that they would go deeper into how stunts are done and introduce the stunt team more. Instead, they mostly just focused on Colt. I think it's cool that they involved the whole team in the final fight, but I would prefer they properly introduce the members beforehand. It doesn't need to be in-depth, but at least let us know all the different roles in a stunt team. Other than that, the stunts themselves are very impressive for sure. An old lady who sat a couple seats beside me kept clapping whenever a big stunt happened. It's a bit annoying, but kind of cute at the same time. Anyway, my point is that the stunts are definitely cool, but not enough to make me love this movie. Overall, The Fall Guy is fine. The story isn't terribly bad, but it's not great either. It's funny at times, but nothing that would make you laugh out loud. The action is great, but not enough to carry the whole movie. You'll probably have a good time watching it. However, it's not something that you will urge someone else to watch. The actors are all more than adequate. The problem is the way the characters are written. The movie is simultaneously too much and not enough. It's just somewhat unfocused. I looked up the original TV show, which is about a stuntman who uses his skills to catch criminals. That sounds way more interesting than this movie. Anyway, that's my thoughts on The Fall Guy. I don't regret seeing it, but I'm definitely not going to rewatch it. I think it makes total sense why people weren't hyped to see this movie, and it underperformed at the box office too. Hope you guys like my review and nails. I did the most important stunts from the movie. There's the record-breaking cannon roll, the burning stunt, the car jump, and the helicopter jump. As always, like, subscribe, comment, share, do what you want. Keep nailing it, and thumbs up, people.